No one. Absolutely no one.
Stars.
Hey guys, this is Future Meep here editing the video. I just want to apologize if I sound a bit hoarse or my voice is lower than normal in the video because while recording this video I was recovering from COVID. Also, before I begin the video, I would also like to give a special shout out to the Long Play Archive Challenge for their Resident Evil game footage that you're about to see. If you want to see a long play of a game without commentary, chances are they've played it and on the platform you're looking for. I'll be including a link to their channel in the description below. Anyways, without further ado, we're going to be starting with the power. The Nemesis T-Type, as he is known, is a tier-based power killer with the power of the T-Virus. He starts the trial in Tier 1 and needs to build up his mutation rate to advance to the next tier. With each additional tier, you get an added bonus to your power. Starting in Tier 2, you can begin breaking pallets and breakable walls with your tentacle whip, whereas in Tier 3, it extends the reach of your whip altogether. You build up your mutation rate in one of two ways, either by contaminating survivors with your first tentacle strike and a subsequent tentacle strike that also injures them, or you can destroy any of your 2 zombie AIs to build it up, but at a slower rate. As for the zombies, you have 2 of them that wander around the map, each acting independent of the other and your own control as they are AIs. What's nice about them is their tracking element and their passive pressure nature. Their auras are revealed to you in white, and depending on their stance position that they're taking, they can give you information as to whether or not they are chasing a survivor, have been recently blinded, or if they're possibly stuck in the environment, because you know, AIs aren't perfect. The zombies can be temporarily disabled, however, by the survivors either destroying them with either a pallet or head-on stun, or they can be disoriented for a few seconds by blinding them, preferably with flashlights or firecrackers. When this happens, after a short cooldown period, they'll randomly respawn underneath one of the hooks around the map. The zombies can also infect survivors who are not infected, and damage survivors if they are already infected, just like your tentacle whip strike. If a survivor is infected, there's 4 vaccine cases spread throughout the map, with each containing a single vaccine for a survivor to use. When a survivor uses a vaccine, they can remove their T-virus contamination, meaning you'll either need to reinfect them with your tentacle whip, or have one of your zombies attack them. Outside of Resident Evil 3 and the remake, there's not much lore to go off of a Nemesis lore-based build. When discussing his lore, I won't be talking about his appearance in the Resident Evil movie franchise, since his in-game chapter counterparts are not Alice from the movie, but rather his game counterpart Jill Valentine and Leon S. Kennedy. He was designed by the Umbrella Company in their research and development of the T-virus, virus that manipulates the genetic makeup of living creatures and causes various mutations in their living hosts. The Nemesis, unlike other bioweapons, shows some signs of intelligence, including being able to operate weaponry and understand its intended purpose. His intended purpose is the elimination of all remaining STARS members in Raccoon City, because they recently uncovered Umbrella's illegal and unethical bioweapon research. Throughout the 3rd Resident Evil game, Nemesis is mercilessly hunting down Jill Valentine as she becomes the last remaining STARS member alive, and I think Lethal Pursuer best reflects this frequent cat and mouse chase aspect of the game. Lethal Pursuer reveals the aura of all survivors at the start of the trial for up to 9 seconds. Each time the player faces off against Nemesis, he transforms in some way that ultimately increases his threat level towards you. This ranges from him wielding a rocket-propelled grenade launcher to him using extended range tentacles to attack you. His change over time, becoming more powerful than the previous encounter, is best reflected in the perk Fire Up. Each time a generator is completed, you gain a token. Each token increases your action speed by 4%, up to 20% max. Because of the Nemesis' nature, he will destroy anything that gets in his way of destroying the STARS members. This includes other zombies and mutated creatures, to other humans such as Carlos Oliveira, who helps Jill periodically throughout the game. For this reason, I think Hex No One Escapes Death is a fitting perk to his character. Hex No One Escapes Death activates if there's a single dull totem remaining on the map, as this perk turns it into a Hex totem. While active, your movement speed is increased by 4%, and all other remaining survivors suffer from the exposed status effect until the totem is broken. The Nemesis being a product of the Umbrella Corporation, and like everything the Umbrella Company touches, there's only death and destruction in the process. Their way of containing the virus was to destroy all of Raccoon City, including the Nemesis, and for that reason, he was bound for death. Deathbound is the last perk of the build. Whenever you're more than 32 meters away from a survivor when they're healing another survivor, the healer will scream and reveal their location to you while activating for 60 seconds. If the healer leaves the person they healed, they will become oblivious for the remaining duration of Deathbound. Compared to a lot of other killers, the add-ons for the Nemesis are more situational than usual. Because he has a lot of add-ons that interact with the zombie mechanic, and because the zombies are AI controlled, they're not really the most consistent each game. There are some add-ons that can offset this, including the ones that increase their movement speed, such as the Shattered Stars badge and the depleted ink ribbon. These add-ons greatly increase the movement speed of your zombies, and if survivors are careless, can easily catch up to them. It's actually kind of scary and immerses you in the experience being chased down by high-speed zombies. Even if you don't get any zombie attacks out of these add-ons, they're great for ultimately helping your zombies traverse the map for information. Alternatively, the wristband add-ons have a similar effect because they increase the zombies' detection range and their field of view. They can ultimately help your zombies find survivors better in the environment. One nice and subtle thing about the zombies is if they're close enough to a notification created by one of your perks, they'll start heading in that general direction. One of the most widely known examples is discordance. When 2 or more survivors are working on the same generator, you get a loud noise notification every 4 seconds, and this turns the generator yellow as a result of it. Being able to pressure multiple survivors and not having to be there thanks to the zombies can allow you to slow down the generator progress, if one of the survivors can lead them away from the generator, that is. The information you can get from discordance also goes great with the next perk, which is Tinkerer. This also gives you and your zombies a loud noise notification when a generator reaches 70% completion, all while making you undetectable for the next 16 seconds. So even if you're on the other side of the map, you can get enough of a warning to get over there, either you or the zombies if one of them is getting close to it, that is. And similar to discordance, Call of Brine has a similar information-like aspect to it. After kicking a generator, it starts regressing at 200% the normal rate, and turns yellow for the next 60 seconds. However, if a survivor resumes working on it before the 60 seconds is over, each time they hit a good skill check, it creates a loud noise notification that can draw the zombies towards it, similar to how discordance works. With all these notifications alerting your zombies to the generators and being able to push survivors off, I think Dead Man Switch is an underrated perk for Nemesis. Dead Man Switch has the effect that when you hook a survivor, it activates for the next 45 seconds. If a survivor stops working on a generator for any reason, including running away from a zombie, that generator will become blocked for the remaining duration of Dead Man Switch. If you want to, you could even take a stealthy approach to this build in the next one with the Serotonin Injector add-on. This add-on causes you to become undetectable for the next 15 seconds when you destroy one of your zombies. Unlike the previous add-ons, this one is more in your control because you get to decide for the most part when it activates, and this goes into the next build, which also starts with a sneaky perk called Surveillance. Surveillance reveals the aura of all regressing generators on the map in a white aura, and if a survivor goes to touch it, it changes to yellow for the next 16 seconds. This is a very sneaky way of keeping track of the survivor's whereabouts because it leads into the next perk, which is Oppression. With Oppression, when you go to kick a generator, not only does the generator you kick regress, but 3 other random ones start regressing as well. Additionally, any survivor working on any of the 3 randomly selected generators when Oppression activates will trigger a difficult skill check instead. With the Serotonin Injector, you can sneak your way over to any of the survivors who missed their Oppression skill checks, or you can use it to make your way over to a generator that recently turned yellow as a result of Surveillance. To help you get Surveillance value, the next perk is Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. If you hook a survivor on one of the 4 Scourge Hooks, the generator with the most amount of progress will explode and regress by 15%. If someone's working on the generator, then you can go and pressure it. Or if they know Pain Resonance is coming and they decide to hop off, you can see if the aura changes from white to yellow thanks to Surveillance, and know they're still working on that generator. The last perk of the build is another stealthy information perk to help you out, and that's Floods of Rage. After unhooking someone from a Scourge Hook, all other survivors' auras are revealed to you for 7 seconds. This sporadic information can be very useful in helping you find a survivor who's closest to you, possibly hiding, or the one who's obliviously working on a generator that you need to push off. For the second add-on, you can use pretty much anything from the add-ons that increase your mutation rate, or the ones that decrease the amount of time it takes for your zombies to respawn altogether, so that way you can get more Serotonin Injector value out of this. Altogether though, it's a pretty fun build. For build number 4, I thought I would go over the build I normally use in game. Start pushing the survivors towards me so I can start interacting with them is Corrupt Intervention. This perk effectively cuts down the size of our map because the 3 furthest generators from my spawn location are blocked for the first 120 seconds of the game. And as the Nemesis, you want to start engaging with the survivors early on, so you can start building up your mutation rate and tier up your tentacle whip faster. The next perk is a popular one on the Nemesis, and it's Save the Best for Last. Each time you hit a survivor who's not the Obsession, you get a token. Each token decreases the cooldown of your successful basic attacks by 5%, up to 40% max. The downside being that if you hit the Obsession, you lose tokens. The main reason I like to use this perk is because I like to go for a lot of Tentacle Strikes. Sometimes I only try to go for Tentacle Strike only games. However, with that being said, it can be frustrating if you start missing a lot of Tentacle Strikes, because the survivors either start swaying from side to side, to really hugging obstacles tightly to mostly just deny you the chance of using your Tentacle Strike altogether. It's really a fallback option above all else to me, even though it's really easy to conserve your stacks by hitting the Obsession with your Tentacle Strike instead. The next perk in the build is Barbecue and Chili. The main reason I use it is to cut down the grind. While the aura rating is never not useful, it's just a universally good perk that I use on every killer, so it's basically my crutch perk on all builds. Another perk that rewards you for hooking survivors for their first time is No Way Out. This perk gives you a loud noise notification when a survivor begins to open an exit switch. And when this happens, the exit switches are blocked for 12 seconds, and 12 additional seconds per different survivor you've hooked that entire game. No Way Out is a really satisfying perk to bring, because survivors won't know about it until they activate it, and there's nothing they can do to progress the game, they can only stall for time with this perk. The extra mana you get from No Way Out can be the difference between securing one more or multiple kills as a result of this, and yeah, that's my build. Those of you who have been following the top 5 build series, you know I normally reserve the last build for the killer's lore-based build, but in this video, however, you saw that I did it first after explaining his power. So what could the last build be, that you might be asking? Well, within the last 24 hours of me recording the audio for this video, I had a bit of a special request for that build. If you've seen my top 5 builds video for the pig, I did a lore-based build for John Kramer, aka the man behind the pig, and not the actual killer we have in game. So I was tasked by Hero Nick to create a build inspired by Mr. X, the Resident Evil 2 tyrant version of Nemesis. Like Nemesis, Mr. X is another bioweapon created by the Umbrella Corporation. Unlike Nemesis, however, from what we see in the lead up to your encounter with them, when he's first dropped from the helicopter into the police station, he's not the only one of his kind. This is further proven in a glimpse of Resident Evil 3, as we see other dead Mr. X bodies towards the end of that game. Also, instead of going after specifically the members of STARS, he and his copies are meant to eliminate any and all remaining survivors within Raccoon City. In the original Resident Evil 2, this takes the shape of him going after Leon or Claire, depending on who you decided to play in the Scenario B version of the game. For this reason, I think No Way Out is a fitting perk to start the build off with, as his entire existence is basically to make sure no one survives within Raccoon City. The other capsules we see with the helicopter flying away presumably are going to be dropped elsewhere in the city for the same intended purpose as he was. When you first encounter Mr. X, the music changes to reflect his eerie appearance and presence. There are several reasons as to why I think the next perk in the build is distressing. His superhuman strength that is able to crush your skull and break through walls and obstacles, his ability to take so much damage and still function and get up, all while being in tight narrow hallways of the police station make him feel very menacing and a threat overall. This is only compounded in the remake, as from what I've learned watching Resident Evil content creators, the longer Mr. X goes without seeing you as you roam around the police station, the more aggressive and dangerous he becomes to face you when he eventually does find you. Once you learn of his existence, you're going to be on your guard, anxiously awaiting for him to appear within the police station. His dressing increases your tear radius by 26% and awards you 100% more deviousness blood points while in game. Because you never know when Mr. X is going to appear again to start chasing you, I think Furtive Chase fits this mold just perfectly. Similar to the teachable holder, Ghostface, he masters his approach till he's ready to strike, and when he does, it's a deadly decisive strike. Furtive Chase gives you a token each time you hook your obsession, up to 4 tokens max. Each token decreases your tear radius while in chase by 4 meters up to 16 meters max. When the obsession is rescued from the hook, the person who performed the unhook will become the obsession. I think the idea of bouncing the obsession around is very fitting because of how the Resident Evil 2 gameplay works. You basically get to pick which character you want to play against them in Scenario B, depending on who you selected in Scenario A version of the game to play. Furtive Chase is decent at bouncing around the obsession, but to a lesser degree when compared to the perk Nemesis. The perk Nemesis gives you more control over who becomes the obsession during the trial, because it activates and swaps the obsession whenever you're either blinded or stunned by any means. And with that, the final build is completed for the video. The Nemesis is one of those hard to place down killers in terms of their impact on the game, since he's one of the numerous anti-looping killers in the game, thanks to his tentacle whip strike. No doubt if the Resident Evil chapter created such hype around Dead by Daylight that they're coming out with a second Resident Evil chapter because of the hype that was created. The one most noticeable thing about the Nemesis is that he is the first ever killer to introduce an AI component to his power, which I'm sure has no doubt opened up the doors for future killer ideas and concepts from the designers. It's not perfect by any means, but it shows effort and potential which I think are important. I think it's better to have a flawed game that can constantly be improved upon than a perfect one that never changes, and the zombies are no exception to that. When the zombies do work as intended, you can get a lot of value and funny moments with them, and they can be really satisfying to use. I don't really have much to say about Nemesis, although I do hope in the future he receives an add-on pass, as there's just a lot of add-ons that affect the zombies, and because they're out of their control, it's hard to tell the value you get from them. I do hope they give him a mechanic to control or direct the zombies to patrol certain areas, or something else overall. Anyways, with that being said, we've come to the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video and want to support the channel, consider leaving a like as it helps promote the video through YouTube, and consider subscribing for more content. I'm Meekless3, and I will see you next time. Goodbye for now.